There is one scene in Game of Thrones that contains the entire story of the show. Not a speech, not a battle, not a death. A vision, 3 minutes long, season 2, and almost every single person who watched it walked away with the wrong explanation. Today we're going to fix that. Because when you understand what that vision was actually saying, the ending of Game of Thrones stops being a frustrating mess and starts looking like something that was planned from the very beginning. Whether that is genius or a lucky accident is a different conversation, and we are going to get into that too. But first, you need to see what most people saw, understand why they were wrong, and then understand what was actually happening on screen. Let us get into it. Season 2, Episode 10. Daenerys walks into the House of the Undying in Qarth to rescue her dragons from the warlock Pyat Pri. The House of the Undying is not a normal building. It is described in the books as a place where time and space do not behave the way they should. It is not a prison. It is closer to a puzzle built from visions. Every door she opens is a different picture of the past or the future. In the show, they stripped a lot of that down, but one vision survived completely intact. She steps through a door and finds herself standing inside the throne room of the Red Keep. The room is empty. It is dark, and the ceiling is completely gone, not damaged, completely missing. The entire structure above the Iron Throne has been blown open, and the sky above is gray and cold. White material is falling from above, settling on the steps, dusting the Iron Throne itself. Daenerys walks toward the throne. Slowly, she reaches out her hand. Her fingers get close enough to almost touch the armrest, and then she stops. She hears something. She turns away. She never sits down. That is the whole vision, less than 2 minutes of screen time. 6 seasons later, in the finale of the entire show, she walks into that same throne room for real. After burning King's Landing, the ceiling is destroyed. White material is drifting down from above. The room looks almost exactly like the vision. And she still does not sit on the throne. So what was the vision showing her? For years, most viewers landed on the same answer. The white stuff was snow. The vision was predicting the long night. The Night King marching south, winter literally arriving in King's Landing. The Iron Throne under the grip of the dead. It was a clean read. The show was called Game of Thrones, and the whole threat of the White Walkers was about winter coming south. This fit perfectly into that framework. And it was not entirely wrong. At the time that vision was filmed, that is almost certainly what the production intended it to mean. The visual effects supervisor for that episode, Stuart Bridson, was interviewed in a behind-the-scenes video from Season 2. He described the process plainly. Foam machines spraying fake snow, wind machines blowing it across the set. He called it snow. The director of that episode, Alan Taylor, used the DVD commentary to call it snow too. Emilia Clarke was sitting next to him in that commentary and agreed. Taylor even said the finished scene looked like Christmas. The official scripts from HBO, which were later released, confirmed it directly. The script reads, "She looks up, the roof is missing, and snow falls from the sky. At the far end of the room, the Iron Throne waits for her, dusted with snow, her dream made manifest." So as of 2012, when that episode aired, the production team had one meaning in mind. Winter, the supernatural threat, the cold that devours everything. But then something happened, and this is where the story gets genuinely interesting. Between Season 2 and Season 3, showrunners David Benioff and D.B. Weiss flew to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and sat down with George R.R. Martin. He told them the ending, not every scene, not every detail, but the major beats. Jon Snow's true parentage, the truth behind Hodor's name, and most critically, where Daenerys ends up. After that meeting, the shape of the show changed. The long night storyline was gradually compressed. The focus shifted south, and that vision of the throne room with the white material falling from the ceiling began to carry a second layer of meaning. By the time Season 8 aired, that second meaning had swallowed the first entirely. Because what Daenerys walks through in the Season 8 finale is not a throne room covered in snow. It is a throne room covered in ash. The ash of the people she killed. And the difference between those two words, snow and ash, is the entire tragedy of her character. Here is the thing about that vision. Everyone spent years debating the white powder on the floor. Nobody talked about the ceiling. The roof of the throne room is completely gone, not partially damaged. The entire structure above the Iron Throne has been opened to the sky. Now think about what that means in the world of the show. The throne room of the Red Keep is the most protected space in the entire kingdom. It is where the king sits at the center of his power. Stone walls, armed guards, the physical weight of centuries of rule pressing down around it. In a medieval monarchy, the ceiling above the throne is not just architecture. It is a symbol. Power flows downward, from the gods to the king to the people. The roof represents the legitimacy of the whole structure, and in Daenerys' vision, that roof is gone. Notice what is still standing. The Iron Throne itself, ugly, enormous, exactly where it has always been. The throne is intact. The room around it has collapsed. That is the exact condition of the Targaryen claim to power at the time Daenerys is having this vision. The throne exists. The dynasty does not. She's living in exile across the narrow sea. Her family's rule has been violently rejected by the people of Westeros for nearly 2 decades. Robert Baratheon sat on that throne, then Joffrey, then Tommen. The throne was still there. Everything that was supposed to protect it and justify it had already fallen apart. The vision was not just showing her a future outcome. It was showing her the current reality she was refusing to look at. The structure is gone. What remains is just a symbol, and symbols alone do not make a ruler. To fully understand what the House of the Undying was doing, you need to look at what the books built that the show cut out. In A Clash of Kings, the second novel, Daenerys does not see 2 visions in the House of the Undying. She walks through an entire palace of futures and pasts. Room after room, door after door, she sees the Red Wedding before it happens. A feast of slaughtered bodies with a wolf's head placed on a dead king. She sees a silver-haired man, described as looking like Viserys but taller and with darker eyes, sitting beside a woman nursing a baby. The man says the child is the prince that was promised and that his is the song of ice and fire. That man is Rhaegar Targaryen, and the child is his first son Aegon, born to Elia Martell, the baby who would be murdered during the sack of King's Landing. But Rhaegar immediately adds something. He says there must be one more. The dragon has 3 heads. He was already thinking beyond that child, planning for a third heir. That third heir, born in secret from Lyanna Stark, is Jon Snow. And then there is the vision that nobody talks about enough. A king sitting on the Iron Throne surrounded by dragon skulls on the walls, saying, "Let him be king over charred bones and cooked meat. Let him be the king of ashes." That line, King of Ashes, is widely read as Aerys the Mad King, speaking his final thoughts during the sack of King's Landing before Jaime Lannister killed him. But it sits in the same chapter as Daenerys' entire journey through the House of the Undying. George R.R. Martin does not place things in the same chapter by accident. He was already drawing a direct line between Aerys and Daenerys, between one generation's madness and the next generation's danger. The apple does not fall far from the tree. The daughter of the man who wanted to burn everything alive would one day face the same choice, and the vision was already suggesting she might make the same decision. The show cut all of this. What survived was just the throne room and the white powder. But even stripped down to that one image, the vision was still doing exactly the same work. It was still warning her. She just did not have the vocabulary to read the warning. Here is the piece of this that gets overlooked the most when people analyze Daenerys as a character. Her entire identity was built around a single fixed point. The Iron Throne is rightfully hers. That belief was not something she discovered. It was something she was handed as a child. Her brother Viserys drilled it into her from the day she was old enough to understand words. She had been homeless, powerless, sold into marriage. She watched people she loved die. And every time things got worse, she kept moving because of that one certainty. The throne is her birthright and she will reclaim it. The problem is that believing you are the rightful owner of everything is exactly the kind of thinking that makes people dangerous. Aegon the Conqueror, her ancestor, did not ask the kingdoms of Westeros whether they wanted to be conquered. He came with dragons and fire and forced them to submit. Daenerys inherited that legacy and spent years telling herself she was different from him. She was going to break the wheel. She would not rule through fear. But here is the thing about people who are absolutely certain they are the rightful rulers of everything. When reality pushes back, they do not question the certainty. They question reality. The moment Daenerys faced real loss, real grief, real resistance, real betrayal, she did exactly what her father would have done. She stopped listening to anyone around her. She decided that the people who would not kneel deserved to burn, and she burned them. Cersei Lannister said it best back in Season 2, not about Daenerys directly, but in a line that hangs over the entire show. Every time a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin. That coin landed on a specific side. The vision in the House of the Undying was already showing it. Let us talk about what makes this vision genuinely brilliant as a piece of storytelling, regardless of whether it was fully intentional. The white substance in Season 2 looked like snow. The production team called it snow. The script called it snow, but it looked enough like ash that fans debated it for 7 years. That ambiguity is the point. Prophecy in this universe has always worked the same way. It tells the truth, but in a language that the person receiving it cannot read yet. Melisandre saw flames and read them as victory. She got the right answer and the wrong interpretation. Daenerys saw white powder and read it as winter coming. She got the right image and the wrong meaning. What she was looking at was the cost of her own victory, the remnants of the city she would destroy to get there, the people she would reduce to ash in the name of liberation. The vision told her exactly what was going to happen. It just told her in a language that looked like something else until it was too late. When she finally stands in that throne room in Season 8, the visual match is so precise it feels deliberate. Open ceiling, white material drifting down, the Iron Throne waiting, her alone in the wreckage, but she still does not sit on it. After Daenerys turns away from the throne in her vision, she steps through a door and comes out the other side of the wall. Snow is falling. There is a Dothraki tent in the frozen landscape. Inside the tent, she finds Khal Drogo and their son Rhaego, the child who died before he was born. She reaches toward her dead husband in a frozen landscape. The north side of the wall, the place where Jon Snow has spent years of his life. Some fans read this section of the vision as predicting she would travel north, which she did. Others saw it as predicting she would lose a dragon beyond the wall, which also happened. But the simplest reading is this: the wall separates her from everything she wants. On one side is the throne she almost touched, on the other side is Jon Snow. Jon Snow is literally constructed from the two things Daenerys represents separately. He is half Stark and half Targaryen, ice and fire combined in one person. His claim to the Iron Throne was not just equal to Daenerys's. By the rules of Westerosi succession, it was stronger. He was the legitimate male heir of Rhaegar Targaryen. Daenerys spent 7 seasons fighting for a throne that, by those same rules she constantly invoked, was not actually hers to claim. She walked away from the throne in the vision because she heard something and went looking for it. She walked away from the throne in real life because Jon Snow put a knife in her heart. Both times she was that close. Both times something pulled her away before she could have it. The vision was not a random collection of images. It was the entire arc of her life collapsed into 3 minutes of television. Here is the honest version of this conversation, because this channel does not pretend things are cleaner than they are. When that throne room scene was filmed in 2012, Benioff and Weiss almost certainly did not know Daenerys was going to burn King's Landing. They learned the broad outlines of the ending the following year. The snow in that vision was intended to mean winter. The Night King, the White Walkers marching south. The Ash reading came later, either retroactively as the show's direction changed, or as a layered meaning that the story developed on its own. What makes the scene remarkable is that it works either way. If the show had gone in the White Walker direction and the Night King had taken the throne, the vision would still have been accurate. If the show goes in the direction it did, with Daenerys burning the city, the vision is still accurate, just with a different explanation for the white powder. That is either very clever writing or an extraordinary coincidence. The debate in the fan community has been going on since 2019. People who defend the final season point to this scene as proof the ending was planned. People who criticize the final season point to how rushed the actual execution was, and argue that a well-planted vision does not automatically justify weak character work in the final 2 seasons. Both of those arguments can be true at the same time. The vision is genuinely brilliant. The journey to get there in Season 8 was genuinely rushed. One does not cancel out the other. So what is the actual takeaway here? What was the House of the Undying Vision really saying? So what is the actual takeaway here? What was the House of the Undying Vision really saying? It was saying this: the structure that was supposed to justify your claim is already gone. What you are reaching for is not a throne. It is a symbol of power in a room that has already been destroyed. And the destruction came from inside your own family, your own bloodline, your own certainty that you were born to rule. It was warning her that the path she was on led to ruins, not because the Night King would come and freeze everything, but because she herself carried the fire that would bring everything down. She saw the throne room destroyed. She saw herself alone in it. She saw herself reaching for the throne and being unable to take it. Every single element of that vision came true. She was alone in that room because she had pushed away or outlived everyone who had ever loved her. Drogo, Jorah, Missandei, the advisors who disagreed with her, the people who refused to kneel. She burned them or she lost them, one way or another. And the man waiting on the other side of the wall, the one the vision placed beyond her reach, was the one who ended her story. The House of the Undying showed her the whole truth in Season 2. It handed her the map. She just read the coordinates as pointing somewhere else. That ambiguity between snow and ash is either the best piece of unintentional foreshadowing in television history or the work of writers who were smarter than they are usually given credit for. Either way, the result is a 3-minute scene from 2012 that told you exactly how the entire show was going to end. Daenerys spent her entire life chasing a throne she saw in a vision. She never once stopped to ask the right question about that vision, not what was falling from the ceiling, not where the cold was coming from, but why the roof was already gone before she ever arrived. The answer was there the whole time, she just could not read it. If this sent you straight back to a rewatch, that is the correct response. The clues in this show are buried deep, and most of them are worth finding. Drop a comment below with which vision from the House of the Undying you think was the most precise prediction of what actually happened. There are some strong candidates beyond the throne room, and it is worth talking through them. If you enjoy breaking down the details that most people skip past, this channel is built for exactly that kind of thing. Subscribe and you will not miss the next one.